90% of New Yorkers now have cell phones, and they are using them for everything from email and social media to listening to music and watching movies. A new poll from Siena and AT&T looks at how people use the telephone now and finds that more than 20% of households don't even have a landline, zero, and 70% of cell phone users have a smartphone. Joining me from New York City now to talk more about the poll and what these trends mean for the state and its policies is AT&T New York President Marissa Shorenstein. It is great to see you, Marissa.
It's great to see you, Liz. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So I guess the first thing I have to ask is, does this poll include people who were reached by cell phone?
It does. It includes people both by landline and by cell phone, a mixture of the two.
Because that,
it's a real cross-section of New Yorkers.
Right, because that seems to be the biggest implication. You know, when I looked at this, it's fascinating information, but also, and I know in your previous life you worked in politics, and so you know what I'm talking about here, polling is a major problem. If you can't reach people, you're not going to get a good cross-section, but apparently pollsters have already figured out how to deal with that.
Well, I think Siena is at the top of their game, and they did a wonderful job with this poll, and we're grateful for that. But of course, nowadays, and you can see from these results, that fewer and fewer people have landlines, and even those that do have landlines are not necessarily using their landlines very often. So if you're going to reach New Yorkers of all different backgrounds and diverse cross-section, then you really need to be calling them on their cell phones as well.
So what does this mean then going forward for policy? I mean, I know, for example, law enforcement is already aware of this, and other emergency services individuals are already aware and have really had to act accordingly, because this is a trend that is moving very quickly. But what else does the state have to be aware of when drafting policy going forward?
Well, this is really about the fact that smartphones and mobility are becoming ubiquitous with everything that we do. And so I think from a policy perspective, we need to understand how mobile technology can help better New Yorkers' lives. And what we're seeing is that, you know, in that term, the Internet of Things, and with home security and with technology for cars, whether it's helping prevent texting and driving from a policy perspective or anything else, that smartphones and mobile devices are changing the world and the way we live today and the way we interact today. And so policymakers are going to need to take that into account when they're thinking through a whole range of issues, whether it's healthcare and the delivery of that information, or dealing with cybersecurity issues that arise from mobile technology, or just runs the gamut. Mobile technology now touches every part of policymaking.
Were you surprised by these results at all? I mean, I guess I'm not hugely surprised. I mean, I'll reveal I don't have a landline, and I haven't had a landline for a couple of years now, so that's not terribly surprising. But that number seems a little low to me, actually.
I was actually surprised that even more upstaters than downstaters don't have landlines, even though it was just a slight difference. I was surprised that texting is as ubiquitous as it is. I know under 35-year-olds text as their primary form of communication, but even in the population of over 65-year-olds, it's becoming more and more popular. And I think that the fact of the matter is that mobile technology has only been around for the past few years, really since 2008 with the launch of the iPhone. So it's been a very, very quick learning curve for many people, and people have adopted it almost unanimously across the state, and I'm sure across the country as well.
There's also this issue that's already impacting policy just yesterday, actually, and this was a campaign promise that New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio had made in 2013 when he was just running. The city turned back a policy that was instituted, I believe, under Mayor Bloomberg that banned cell phones in schools. Now it's going to be up to the discretion of the school's principal to determine what the rules will be. But again, I'm sure we're going to see more and more of this going forward in terms of policy at every level. I mean, we're already seeing it there.
Sure. And I think that really the story is, how do you use technology in a responsible way and in a way that enhances your lives and not detracts from it. You know, we don't have a point of view about what schools should be doing, but I will say that, you know, when we look at, for instance, texting and driving, and we've had a very robust campaign about and how not to text and drive because it kills people, and the numbers are increasing day over day. But so we look at those issues and we try to educate people about what's responsible and what's not. So with school use, we want to be sure that students are using it as an education enhancement tool and also as a way to contact their loved ones in case of an emergency, but not for texting under the table or things like that.
Right. Certainly not. We do not endorse anything like that. None of it.
No, we do. Absolutely not.
You do say, this information obviously is just as, it's interesting to us, but it's also got to be a tool for you. I mean, you're talking about here in the release that accompanies this poll, pushing the envelope in terms of technology and what you're going to provide as a company for New Yorkers who obviously are eager for this kind of technology. So what's coming next?
Well, so that's part of the reason that we did this poll. We wanted to really better understand how New Yorkers are using technology and how they're using their mobile devices. And for us, we're no longer a telephone company. We are a technology company that builds technologies. We work with car companies on the connected car. We work with home security. We now have our own home security called Digital Life. It's a service that literally, if you're in Tokyo and you have your smartphone, you can turn your boiler off in your home back in Schenectady or somewhere else, and you can unlock your door or lock it. You can check on things from wherever you are in the world. And we think that just as smartphones have become part of everyone's daily life, that those technologies, the car, digital life, other things will begin to become a part of their routine and more immersed in day-to-day culture. So that's what we're looking at. We were interested to see how people are using them, where there are places where we can do a better job and where technology can continue to grow and help New Yorkers achieve efficiency and achieve their goals.
Well, I would say 90% smartphone user satisfaction is a pretty good result for you guys. Do you envision a day when we won't have landlines at all? That someday your kids will grow up and you'll say, back when I was young, there used to be a phone on the wall, which is bizarre, but, exists.
It is. My grandparents, to the day they died, they kept their rotary phone where you had to dial around, even though there was no need to do that at that point in the life of technology. And so I do think that landlines will continue to diminish year over year. But there will be things that sort of look like that. We have what's called the wireless home phone, which looks similar to your phone, but it's used over wireless technology, and that's really where we're going. So people will still be able to hold phones, but using a different set of technology, and I think that we've seen landlines really take a nosedive year over year, and I expect that to continue, not just in New York, but across the country.
Well, these results are available on Siena's website if anybody is interested, and there really is a plethora of information there that's pretty fascinating if anyone wants to take a look. Marissa, I thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much.